We are just 2 days away from the Dolphins taking on the Commanders in Madrid to get NFL Week 11 going, and we're going to look at the latest injury news and injury reports for this game. We're going to start with Miami. Austin Jackson, who had his 21-day practice window open this week off of IR, is doubtful for this game. We'll talk more about that here in a second. Bradley Chubb is questionable with a foot injury. Rasul, who missed last week's game, is questionable. And same thing with Dee Eskridge. And coming up in just a little bit, we're going to take a look at the Commanders' injury report and where they stack up heading into this game. But before we do that, I want to make sure people are subscribed to the channel. We will be live on Sunday morning early for this game. And in our Week 11 sub battle, we are in a dead battle, you might say, with the Commanders report. They have 139 subs this week. We have 144. Hit that sub button for daily Dolphins content and to take down the Commanders report. But Austin Jackson being doubtful means we're going to see Larry Borom for another week. And Borom has really picked up his play over the last month. I thought he was pretty spotty in the first month of the year filling in for Austin Jackson. But to be honest, week 6 on, it hasn't been that bad. And if you look at what he's done on film as well as how he's been graded out by Pro Football Focus, it is exactly what you would expect for a full season sample size to this point for a backup offensive tackle. You shouldn't expect Larry Borom to come in and be a top half OT in the NFL. That's just unrealistic for a backup. But this is exactly what you would expect from Borom. So I honestly think he's done fine, and we'll have to wait to see when Austin Jackson ultimately returns. Now, if you are not familiar with how the practice window works for the Miami Dolphins and in the NFL, when you return to practice from IR, that is a designated 21-day window, and you have to be activated from IR to the active 53-man roster within that 21-day window, or you are done for the year. So if he is not activated by December 2nd, to the 53-man roster, he is not going to return at all this season. So if you're asking me when we should expect Austin Jackson to be back on the football field for Miami, it is without a doubt after the bye week, because Miami obviously plays a Sunday. He's doubtful. Then you have your Week 12 bye, and then you go back to Miami to host the New Orleans Saints in Week 13. I would expect Austin Jackson to be available in that game. And if he's not, well, then he must be activated that Monday or Tuesday, or he's done for the year. Let's look over to Bradley Chubb now, because he was not on the injury report on Wednesday and then apparently picked up a foot injury maybe on Thursday or during practice on Friday. And now he is questionable for Sunday's game. And that would be quite the dagger for the Miami Dolphins, especially since they traded Jalen Phillips. Bradley Chubb is now that number 1 edge rusher on the depth chart. And boy, was he phenomenal in the first game post Jalen Phillips trade against the Bills. He had 3 tackles. He had a league-high 10 pressures in Week 10 and also brought down Josh Allen on a big-time sack where he had that taunting or whatever you want to call it penalty for celebrating, which I thought was a little bogus. But he was awesome against the Buffalo Bills. And you need him out there, not because he is some elite player and the best edge rusher in the world. It's because after you do not have Jalen Phillips, you desperately need veteran and leadership out there at the edge room. And if you take Bradley Chubb off of this roster now, Chop Robinson, yeah, he is returning, but you would just have Matthew Judon, Andre Carter, Cam Good. Now, I do expect Quentin Bell to potentially be activated for a game day elevation for this game. He did that last week in filling the Chop Robinson spot. But with Chop Robinson back, you have to see what Bradley Chubb is up to. But Chubb did such a good job, not only rushing Josh Allen last week, but also setting the edge in the run game. I thought it was the best game he played all year. I thought it was the best game a lot of those defensive linemen played for Chubb, Kenneth Grant, Jordan Phillips. You need to continue this momentum defensively against an offense that is kind of reeling right now, really struggling with no Jayden Daniels, Marcus Mariota filling in. So I really hope Bradley Chubb will be good to go, because Miami could really use him and need him out there. More injury news to get to here, but what is your confidence level in the Dolphins getting a win this Sunday morning against the Washington Commanders? Last game before their bye week. Scale 1 to 10 for me down in the comment section. we might have a continued cornerback carousel because even though Mike McDaniel said earlier this week he expects Rasul Douglas to be active for this game, he is still listed as questionable. Never got off that injury designation list this week. So it could be another week of Jack Jones and Juju Brents starting on the boundary for the Miami Dolphins. And if you want my honest opinion on the matter, I'm honestly fine with it because Jack Jones and Juju Brents were so good against the Buffalo Bills. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to hold out the veteran Douglas another week and see what you have in Brenson Jack Jones again. Was it an anomaly in a 1 week sample size? Was it because the Buffalo Bills wide receiver core is like the worst in the NFL? Or is this a legit young cornerback duo at age 25 and 27 respectively that could be something of the future for the Miami Dolphins? Like if Rasul Douglas isn't 1,000% healthy, why rush him back when you can have these two young guys go out and maybe prove that they should be someone thought of as pillars of this defense going forward? I mean, Brents was phenomenal against the Buffalo Bills last week. Didn't allow anything guarding Keon Coleman and Dawson Knox, Colton Kincaid most of the game. Like, I really was impressed with Juju Brents' size, his physicality, the way he moved in coverage. I'd like to see him get a lot of snaps again this week. No Terry McLaurin for the Commanders. We'll talk more about that here in a second. But I don't mind holding out Rasul Douglas to see what you have in Juju Brents and Jack Jones for another week. More coming up here, but this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Hard-hitting football action is continuing to roll on, and with the weather changing, well, the feeling of being right never gets old. Keep the season rolling on with Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly when you get $5 played for your first time. So simple, just pick more or less than at least 2 player stats, and if you get your picks right, you could cash in. Available in more than 40 states, and you can really just make your picks however you want. You can do the flex play for flexibility, and you can miss a pick. You can go power play and look for the bigger payout. I have an entry for this week's game: more than Devon Achane receiving yards, less than 2 pass attempts, and more than Marcus Mariota interceptions. That's my 3-player entry for this game. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. One last injury note for the Miami Dolphins before we move on to the Commanders. Aaron Brewer is good to go. The center was a DNP on Wednesday's practice. He's been a top 5 center in the entire NFL this year. He has been sensational ever since being signed by Chris Grier and Mike McDaniel. A perfect fit for this Miami Dolphins offensive line and scheme. And give credit to Mike McDaniel for being able to find really good offensive linemen in free agency. Brought in Connor Williams. He was really good blocking wise for Miami. Then found Aaron Brewer. He's done an excellent job there, and you hope that continues, and it's good that Aaron Brewer is going to be available for this game. Let's get over to the Commanders injury report now because it is way more lengthy than Miami's. They already ruled out 6 players, including Treylon Burks, Jayden Daniels, Will Harris, Drake Jackson, Ali Kaho, and Terry McLaurin. Obviously, the headliners are Jayden Daniels, who we knew was going to be out for this game, as well as their best wide receiver, Terry McLaurin. This Commanders team is just so battered and bruised, beaten up. They have so many injuries on both sides of the ball. They also have a linebacker, Jordan McGee, and tight end Ben Sinnott, questionable for this game. Let's just call it how it is, man. The Dolphins are 3-7. They're not very good. They are not going to be favored in many games down the stretch of the season, but they're favored this Sunday by 2.5 points against the Commanders, and they will be favorites at home against the Saints and on the road against the New York Jets because they are absolutely putrid. This is a game you should win. You should take advantage of this opportunity, and I know some fans are going to be out there and say, we shouldn't want to win games. We should focus on draft position. We're not going to make the playoffs. Listen, the team doesn't tank. No team purposely loses game in the National Football League. So this team is going to go out there and fight tooth and nail to try to get wins, and it's a game that they should win if they have the competency that is correct, as well as the right head coach at the helm, making sure these guys are prepared and motivated for this game. Like, let's be real as well. Like, the next month of the season, you should not lose a game. You beat the Bills at home, which proved to yourself and the NFL world that you on any given night can beat a contending team in the NFL and in the AFC. And you have 3 straight games with a bye week in between some of them against awful, awful football teams in the Commanders, the Saints, and the god-awful Jets. Like, Miami should absolutely win all 3 of these games in the next 4 weeks. They should be 6-7 heading into the final month of the season where you play Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Tampa Bay, and New England. Is this me telling you that they're going to win the final 7 games of the year, finish the year 10-7, and make the playoffs? No, that's not what I'm saying. But I do expect Miami to at least get to 6 wins on the year. Like, they might lose all 7 or all 4 games in the last month of the year. That's very possible. I think they win the next 3, though, to get to 6-7 and make the month of December at least a little bit intriguing. And I think the team has a lot of belief in that as well. Teron Armstead, Dolphins legend, was in Madrid alongside Cameron Wolfe talking on NFL Network. And Armstead gave props to Devon Achane as one of the most underrated players in the NFL. But Wolfe made the point that the Dolphins have, quote-unquote, delusional confidence that they can ride this revitalized energy after the trade deadline, winners in 2 of their last 3 games, beating the Buffalo Bills at home, to beat the Commanders, who have a bottom 2 defense in the NFL, and kind of go on a little run here against the Saints and Jets to get back almost to 500. I don't know if that's the best thing in the world for the Dolphins long term, because it feels like Miami's going to be picking anywhere between 8 and 15 in the draft and not make the playoffs. And I know that's frustrating for some Dolphins fans, but I also think it's important to kind of show the world this team doesn't have any quit. They're not just rolling over, and they're starting to build something inside this locker room. So I think there's positive and negatives to each way you look at this for the Dolphins winning and losing games. But listen, we can't control the matter, so we might as well just root the team on. And we'll root the team on this upcoming Sunday on an early edition of Dolphins Today. So subscribe and join us for our Dolphins Commanders watch party.